As promised, it's the AM edition of Salty Takeaways and Bitter Ends. And I think, Jared, as much as we were talking about it last night with Nick, I think that we're going to have a lot more of the former than the latter. And I'm just going to open up the floor for a little while because folks have been, peppering our timeline ever since we asked for it last night. And we'll get into that in the second half of this. And a programming reminder, SDH PM later today. Keep an eye out for the bat signals on all your favorite social media platforms as to when we all get together and can discuss the madness that was at Nissan Stadium. So, Jared, I'm just going to open up the floor. Where do you want to start?
You know what? I'm going to start on the positives. Get that out of the way first because – and I said this last night, and I didn't mean it in a snarky way. I realize it may have come off that way. I know everyone's tired of draws. That's a damn good draw. And I didn't mean it in a way to criticize anybody or, come down on anyone. Yeah, draws are getting old. You want to get 3 points. But, man, not all draws are created equally. And that's a damn good draw, all things considered. And we'll get into the not-so-positive things that could have led to that. Because, yeah, you're missing a ton of guys. You have some things go against you. Thanks again, Pro.
Yes.
Thanks again, Kubo's hand. And you showed some cojones because I think in a different timeline, it'd have been really easy to go down 2-1 there. Even, the possible 3-1 that gets called back. I think it'd have been really easy to go down 2-1 there and just kind of ride it out and nothing really gets created. They fought. I mean, they get the second goal off of the set piece. Great ball from Marcelino Moreno, who had a really good night. And then Jackson Conway just squeaks it inside the post on the double move. But they still created chances before, during, and after that. And you're kind of careful about how you get forward, especially against a team like Nashville that can hurt you now. Nashville, it's weird. Nashville's not the same team they were last year. For one thing, they leak goals. It's really weird seeing a Gary Smith team leak goals. It's like watching a Nick Saban team start giving up a bunch of points and then scoring points, and you can just see his blood pressure rising.
Yeah.
Even when he lifts a national championship, this Saban won a title, gave up 24 points. He's going to take a life in the tunnel. But it's weird seeing Gary Smith's team give up goals, but they can still hurt you getting forward. And, now they've got another designated player coming in. They're going to be an interesting watch because I still have questions about them. But you went up to Nashville, a place that was a rough place for you last year. Remember, you go up and get run off the field last year in Nashville where Brooks Lennon's body basically just quit on him because he's been playing every minute of the season. That's a good draw. And now you have some time to rest guys before you're basically asking your second team to go out there and do it again. Great performance and great job by the kids, especially. And the Anton Walk's Appreciation Hour will commence later tonight on that's the super secret, I guess, 5th hour of SDH.
Yeah, especially after this match. Going back to one of the conversations that we were having back and forth last night, as of 10:05 this morning, Alex Dejohn, I don't know if you saw this on his Twitter, X-ray confirmed broken elbow, but it's going to take a lot more than that to stop me back on the pitch. Yes.
What?
Yeah.
I missed this.
Well, no, literally 10:05 this morning is when he posted it to his Twitter account at Alex Dejohn 5. And so the moment that we were talking about last night where Alex goes up to defend, he comes down, and it was where I was saying that wrists and elbows weren't supposed to go that way in a natural fashion.
Yes.
I'm guessing that's the moment Alex is saying confirmed broken elbow on the X-ray.
Holy God. Okay, I'm just now seeing this.
And you add that to what we saw with Mo Adams yesterday,
which looked like a soft tissue injury, which sucks for Mo.
And you could tell because he was emotional coming off the pitch because he goes down. It was then the first clatter with Mukhtar that you could tell something happened. He goes down, and then a couple minutes later he goes down again, and you could tell how emotional Mo was, considering that he was coming back from sports hernia surgery and got all of a game plus 20 minutes before he was taken off again.
Yeah, and I hope Mo's going to be okay. I hope it's not as bad as we might think it is. Look, Mo was really good last year. Mo showed a lot with the twos and was starting to transfer that up to the first team. has his, I believe he had hernia surgery earlier this season.
Yep, sports hernia surgery. Yeah.
Took a while to get back on the field. Now he has a chance at extended minutes, and that happens. And I think Mo Adams can be a good depth piece on this team. I still stand by that being a really good deal because you didn't give up really anything to Chicago for him, and you got a guy who Chicago didn't really seem to have a place for. So I mean, and I believe they talked about it on the broadcast. He's in that midfield Chicago at the time with Dax McCarty and Bastian Schweinsteiger. Like, it's going to be hard to get minutes.
Yeah.
And I think Mo Adams can be a really good depth piece. So it sucks for him that, he comes back. He's got a chance to get minutes to show what he can do to try and carve out a role. And that happens. So hopefully he's able to get back on. But if not, you have the new signing coming in. Dude, the way people were dropping last night, I was like, we're getting real close to hardship exemptions getting called in.
Yeah.
We're running out of bodies at this point because you're not going to have Sosa next time. You're possibly not going to have Jake Mulroney. I'm trying to think who else. I think you're missing someone else. Can't remember. Anyway.
But just on the notion of, just all of these, the lineup first and foremost, with all of the absences for international, then you have the injuries that are there, and you have the lineup that you have. But then, before we get back into talking about, Alex and Mo and injuries again, you had 4 homegrowns out there at one point last night. And it was Action Jackson. It was George Campbell, who came in for Mo Adams. You had Tyler Wolff, who put in a workmanlike shift. And you had Machop Chol, who, like we've seen with George Bello in the past, there's that moment in the match where you bonk and you got to push through it and you learn a lot about yourself. And I think that we saw that with Machop, but you had 4 academy guys out there last night for you, and you come up with the result that you do. And it's something, Jarrett, that we've seen with Atlanta United too, specifically, where there is no quit in this team. There's always a comeback in them. If they're down, they don't, let it spiral out of control. There's always the comeback that's there, and you come up with a shared result. We've seen that a lot with Atlanta United too. And that imprint that was there, that you can thank the Academy and Stephen Glass and Tony Annan and Jack Collison working everything forward with the 4 guys that were part and parcel to what was there last night. Jackson Conway scores a goal off a double move on a header. And it just reminds me of a wide receiver out there on an island with a defensive back, where you sit there and you make that little cut move, and the defensive back goes with it, and then you sit there and you cut the in route or you go to the marker. That's what that reminded me of. He just got enough space to where he needed it. And you saw each of the 4 academy products put in quality work last night in the 2-2 draw.
You did. It's tough, man. I mean, you talk to these kids about their first MLS game. A lot of times the first thing they talk about is just being exhausted, even after 50 or 60 minutes. It's exhausting to play at this level. Even coming from USL to MLS, it's a big jump. And man, it's impressive for a guy, for me, from a trope, even though he's gone through college and he's been around this team in training. He's had some minutes with the first team. It's not like he came up and played 90 minutes out of the gate, but he's also coming off an injury, and he gave you 90 good minutes. Dude's built like a giant spider, and he has no business being that fluid at that size. My favorite one was the end of the game almost, where Moreno ends up getting a yellow card off Dax McCarty because there's a loose ball, and Machop Chol's, like, somebody for Nashville is running at it, and Chol just slides and sticks that 8-foot-long leg out there and pokes it away to Moreno, who Moreno drew like 25 fouls last night.
Yeah, exactly.
Atlanta remains like the most foul team in MLS, but it's those little things of doing that defensive work, because I think it would have been really easy late in that game for him to not sell out on that in a way that it wasn't reckless. He wanted it more, to be cliche about it. To me, it looked like he wanted it more. So he got down, he put in the extra effort, and got Atlanta a bit of a break there, put Dax McCarty on a yellow card, which is something for him to think about in the last few minutes of that game. It's really impressive what he did. Tyler Wolff's been pushed into a role that he hasn't always played. He's played further up the field at times in his youth career, and he's being asked to do more, and he looks more comfortable with it. It looks like, at least to me, things are slowing down for him a bit, which has to happen for young guys in any sport. If you've ever played, you ever make a jump in sports, things are fast. Things are very fast. And you make that jump and you can be, in over your head. But I think things are slowing down for him, and the more he's seeing it, speaking personally, it was that way with baseball. The first time you face someone who can throw 90 miles an hour, it's almost like you can't see it. And then you see it for the 500-600th time, it slows down. Soccer is going to be similar because guys are faster here. The first touch is going to be cleaner. The movement off the ball is going to be more vicious. And I think things are slowing down a bit for him. There's still things to improve on, I think, for Wolff, but we did well. And then, Jackson Conway did what he's done. And we've seen him with the twos take opportunities and just run with them. And last night, little okey-doke double move, and gets free, puts a header on frame, and it's all you ask of him in that situation of, hey, if you're going to get free, put it on frame. And he did, sneaks it inside the post. A fantastic job by him. Really good performance. And, man, yeah, I'm running out of nice things to say. Not because I don't have more nice things to say, but I mean, just so impressed with the kids and what they put out there. And, just all over just the work they did. It was gutsy. Shout out to Alec Can.
Yes.
Alec Can has gotten so much better, in my opinion, with the ball at his feet from when he got here in 2017. He has had to sit outside of the spotlight behind Brad Guzan. Can's an amazing shot stopper. I will implore all of you, if you haven't seen the double save he made against Louisville this year on the PK, when he was with the twos, one of the best double saves you will ever see off a penalty. Still a great shot stopper, but really solid with the ball at his feet. And I promise y'all, go ask Bruce Arena how it feels when your backup goalkeeper is giving you a big drop off of your starter, because he was critical about their goalkeeper backing up Matt Turner, shipping 3 goals to Toronto. I promise you, it can be a lot worse. As other teams have it. To have Alec Can backing up Brad Guzan, it's a really good situation. And behind him, you have a Ben Lundgaard who's really good. Ben Lundgaard is no slouch at all. And then, of course, Rocco Rios Novo is down with the twos. And I'm convinced that Rocco has a stipulation in his contract, if you watch him play, that he actually gets a bonus every time he doesn't touch the ball with his hands. he pulled a ball down the other night playing for the twos. He went out the ball bouncing to him, it was overhit. There was no pressure on him. He pulls that ball down with his foot and just starts juggling it at the edge of the box just because he can, and he's just having fun, convinced that he gets a bonus for not using his hands. But, yeah, in summation, I mean, so impressed with what those kids did in such a tough environment in Nashville. I mean, it wasn't an empty venue, and Nashville didn't pull punches on them. Very impressed with the way they fought.
All right. Oh, and by the way, looking back at my notes quickly here, 12 minutes in match time after Alex Dejohn went down and was taken off and went back on, he gave that through ball to Moreno that almost gave a goal to Tyler Wolff. So 12 minutes in after playing with what was eventually diagnosed as a broken elbow, we had Alex Dejohn give a moment to Marcelino Moreno and then to Tyler Wolff. So, all right. The moment. And a lot of folks, obviously, after the match last night, commented on the SDH timeline. David at Who Took My Thrash. The upside is the pro broadcast they released will never contain a segment on the ref refusing to look at a suggested review. D. Graham. Maybe that misinterpretation of a clear touch of the ball being dogged so. Let's see. I'm going to go with this particular topic here, and I'm just going to see if there's anything else that was attached to it. GTUTD one of his 6 points. Horrible call on Mulraney. Clean tackle plus Sosa had cover. Ella Bell, please tell me the red can be appealed, because if not, between international call-ups, injuries, yellow accumulation, and that red, in quotation marks, we hardly have any players left for the next match. And then, Jarrett, that led into your first response. I have some thoughts, and none of them are polite.
I have some thoughts, and none of them are polite, because, my God, don't tell me don't gaslight me with that BS that he didn't get the ball.
Oh.
Got the ball.
He got there first.
Sosa's right there next to him. It's not like Mulroney was the last guy back. Man, I feel for Jake Mulroney, because the dude got his start last year at the MLS's back tournament, and Joey Zhao played him like a fiddle and got him sent off in the first half of that game, which Cincinnati proceeded to turn into an abomination of a soccer game by refusing to play up a man and needed a golazo to get a 1-0 miserable win. But man, no, don't tell me he didn't get the ball. No, don't tell me he didn't get the ball. So here is the reminder for everybody that Pro makes these decisions. If it is appealed, Pro is not the one that decides if the overturn happens or not. It's Disco's disciplinary committee, I believe, made up of former players and I believe former officials, might be current too, current players. But the disciplinary committee is separate from Pro. They will make that decision. I have to imagine that once they saw the replay, Atlanta officials were writing up the form, whatever form 24E that has to be filled out at whatever the equivalent is of Major League Soccer's DMV. They had to be filling out that form the second they saw the replay of nope, we're appealing that.
Yeah,
that's not going to stand, because I felt bad for Mulroney. He was just beside himself, and I don't blame him, because it was a great tackle.
You should have been apoplectic in that manner.
Yes, he should have. He should have been irate, and he was irate because the official decided to get it. And look, you listen to the full-time report. I don't disagree with Jason and Mike. I get why he may have missed it, because the official's behind the play. I get why he may have missed it, because it happens again. Pro sports are very, 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 very fast. Go watch them field level versus even being in the stands. It's such a fast game up close. I get it. You can make that mistake. That's why you have VAR. But for VAR to go, he didn't get the ball. That was a red card. The guy wasn't going to be in the way. That was, man. It's inexcusable, and it backs up my frustration with replay across all sports. Really, that you have replay in sports, but it is not always applied in a manner that instills faith in you as the viewer, because it gets real. They make it really easy for you to look at replay and say, are they getting the call right, or are they looking out for their buddies? And I do have a huge issue with it. It's. It was very bad, and it was very disappointing, because it was turning that game was getting MLS After Dark, and that still made it MLS After Dark in a weirder way, in a different way. But the end of that game was going to probably be fireworks if it's 11-on-11, and it ends up not being that.
And Jackson Conway almost has a chance at the very, very end to get the win.
He did, and he kind of wrote it out, which I was fine with. At that point, if that chance didn't come to fruition, don't get turned over and give up something the other way, write it out. That's fine. The one that got me was the run Moreno made down the left side with about 5 minutes left, where he hits that little outside of the foot shot that I believe it was Jackson or Wolf was making the run near post and just floated over his head. And then if Moreno puts that a little bit lower, and he's hitting that on a dead sprint, so I get why he sailed it a bit, but if he hits it a little bit lower, I think it's Wolf or Conway coming in towards the near post. If he gets it a little bit lower, that's on a head and it's in the back of the net. Nothing he's going to do about that.
I think that's the Dejohn play. That's the one that Alex Dejohn started at the back and
Dejohn
gives to Moreno.
Long to Moreno. Yeah, Dejohn plays it to Moreno beautifully. It's a great run by Moreno. The Nashville backline, if you look at it, is a little bit broken up. They're not in a uniform line. So I believe the far center back, so like the left center back or the left back, one of them is back a little bit further and keeps Moreno on side. A great run, great ball from Dejohn. And yeah, it comes really close to being a great opportunity for Atlanta to steal 3 points there. But I was so impressed they didn't give up after the game kind of getting sideways, then cards started flying everywhere. And man, Pro, if I want to see someone officiate a game that badly, I'll go back and watch Atlanta United 2 matches. Except for last week. Like, Wednesday night's game was very well officiated. I won't be mad at that one. But the other Atlanta United 2 matches I've seen this year in USL, I'll go back and watch USL matches if I want to see some amateur hour stuff. But for you to be on the big stage and to sway a game like that, get the hell out of here.
Also on the board, as a part of the discussion, looking on the Twitter timeline, Kerry Smith, very impressed with George Campbell, would start him next to Walks in the next match. I loved his aggressiveness. Moreno's at his best when he's based more centrally.
Yeah, Campbell's that one that, like, so Campbell's a converted midfielder, first of all. George Campbell adventures through the midfield can be really fun because he can play with the ball at his feet. It'd be interesting to see how they line up next time against New England because, yeah, he's the one. Yeah, I think you're asking at that point, it might be asking Anton Walks to sit a little more. If somebody's going to take a trounce into the midfield, it might be Campbell if he plays in that situation. Might also be Josh Bauer because,
yeah,
I mean, I don't know how they're going to line this up next game. Bradley Campbell is going to have to get called up to play center back at this rate. I'm sorry, Bryce Washington would first.
Yeah.
Because Washington's on a homegrown deal, and Campbell you'd have to sign to a short term or a hardship. They might have to call Bryce Washington to the bench at this point. The twos might be playing like, the twos are going to have to play like, trying to think who's going to play in the back for the twos next Saturday night. Because if it all comes down to pieces, man, that's going to be like Camden Feo playing center back.
Caleb Wiley on the left.
Yeah. Aiden McFadden on the right.
Uh-huh.
And if they gotta call Bryce up.
Well, and then you might have Chris Allen playing a deeper role.
You might have Chris Allen playing center back.
You might also have Caleb Wiley playing center back and Johnny Fortune at left back, knowing that Fortune can get engaged in the play.
We're just gonna play one center back and see what happens. Flood the midfield. I don't know what they'll do, but man, shout out Alex Dejohn because, dude, you broke your elbow and you got out there and damn near got a hockey assist to win a game with a broken elbow. That's amazing.
Yes.
I will be very interested to see how they line it up next time with the bodies missing. Because yeah, I'm a big fan of George Campbell. Like, we've talked about it for a while. Like, George Campbell came out of nowhere. He was one of those cats who hit a growth spurt, and he went from being like a normal center back to, oh, that's one of them SEC center backs now.
Mm-hmm.
And Atlanta has a couple of those.
John Lynch,
now.
David Fulcher types.
Yeah, Atlanta's got a couple of those now because you got Bryce as well, who they have these big, hyper athletic center backs that are both, can be set piece weapons and defensive weapons, but they're also incredibly fast and incredibly athletic for their size, not unlike Miles.
And you're hoping Efren Morales can get back healthy, so if you need him from the midfield to play more of a defensive midfield position, he can help out there too.
Yeah, because Efren Morales is every bit of like 6'3" or 6'4", playing like as a holding mid. You might have to ask him to drop back if he can get healthy. I mean, you've got a dearth of these guys coming who are not just like light tower human beings, but incredibly athletic. Like, this supposed to be SEC? Well, they is SEC. Like, they're building Atlanta United is basically building an SEC center back academy, for lack of a better term. I will be very curious to see how that progresses for them. But overall, man, yeah, really good performances by everybody and really good work by Campbell. And I hope to see more of George Campbell. I really want to see him get more minutes. And I guess there's always a reminder of when these kids play, there are going to be mistakes.
Yes.
You just got to have to roll with it. And I think most people do. I think it's like preaching to the choir to tell people oh, they're going to make mistakes. You just have to be patient. Like, yeah, everybody knows that. It's just you kind of have to. I think you have to remind yourself sometimes when they make a mistake. It's like, oh, that kid's 18, 17, 19 years old, and those mistakes will happen. It's just a part of it.
Also on the board on the Twitters from Sandy United. Hard-fought match. Boys did good tonight. Thank you to Ada Anton Walks and at Jackson Conway 36. His man of the match may have to be Moreno. He had the fight in him tonight. The other 5 points from GTUTD1. Love the fight from the boys. Torres was having a bad night before the handball. Come on, man. Chol was balling out there. Moreno was big tonight. Why all the unmarked players when defending corners? That's a question from GTUTD1. Jarrett, what do you think?
I don't know what happened with Cubo Torres on that handball.
Okay, so here's my theory on it. And of course, this is me looking at it in real speed and then having the benefit of looking at it in review from the television side in slow-mo. I'm thinking that Kubo mistimed his jump, and at the same time that he's trying to see if there's space in behind and figure out how much space he has between himself and whomever and or Alec can. Mistimes the jump, and obviously the momentum of the jump as you're trying to jump, that arm behind you is going to come up to try to give you that extra little bit of lift and momentum. So it goes over his head, and he has no choice because that arm is there trying to help propel. It hits the arm and ends up being a handball. And, we have another VAR situation where Kubo is given they call it a handball. He could have just as easily been sent off as well.
Yeah, I thought so too. I was surprised. I think that's what Nashville was upset about. They wanted him sent off. I figured one of two things happened. Either he lost track of it and his arm was just up and it hit his arm, or because the other thought that jumped into my head before that clicked with me was, did he think Can didn't have the near post covered and he went full Luis Suarez? Because that would be amazing if so. Because Can's standing right behind him and just like looks around like, what the actual hell just happened? And yeah, Kubo comes off shortly after that, and man, I like a lot of what Kubo does off the ball, but last night just wasn't his night. And you threw Jackson Conway into the fire, and I think Jackson Conway made a strong statement with this play both directions to say, I want those minutes. And I think he might be getting them going forward, and I'm fine with that. Jackson going to be taking those minutes, then he's going to take those minutes. That is what it is. But I still have no idea what the hell happened on that handball. I am still very confused in general.
Yeah, and Jackson, very complimentary of Kubo Torres in the post-game interviews about how Kubo is there as a mentor for Jackson as Jackson is learning life as a professional soccer player. And that's part of the reason that Kubo Torres is here, is to be that mentor.
If I'm not mistaken, he's getting his badges too.
Yeah, and to be that guide, to be that mentor, and as a part of this process, getting his badges so he can work on that next stage of his career. And the one thing that I specifically will never question with Kubo Torres, the second he hit the door, has been his work rate. He has done what has been asked of him. He has run his ass off, and I just went ahead and used that word. He is running around both sides of the ball. The only thing that's missing is putting the ball in the back of the net. And I know that's a point that we continually talk about with Kubo Torres. And, when you're a striker, that would be what strikers are supposed to do. But the one thing I will never question about Kubo Torres has been his work rate since he came here to Atlanta United, doing whatever has been asked of him on both sides of the ball.
No, his work rate has been fantastic. Aside from that, though, it's gotten it's to the point now that if he's making mistakes on that front, then yeah, you're looking elsewhere. His work rate to me has never been a problem, so I want to see if we come down to it, how else does Jackson take those opportunities? I think he ran with it last night, and Joseph is waiting just off screen, waiting to get back in there. And when those minutes are available for Joseph, yeah, that's the name you put in Obsidian The rest of the names you put in, you're putting it pinned. With Joseph, you're putting that name in Obsidian when he's ready to go. So does, was that a situation where Jackson Conway pushed his way into being the backup striker role? And good on him himself. I won't question Kubo in terms of his ability to fight at all. I think he puts in a lot of effort and a lot of drive. But man, it's stuff like last night, it's just tough. Mm-hmm. It's just tough because you're not getting it going forward, and then when you're making mistakes going the other way, it makes it tough. It makes it really tough.
All right, so the last thought before we end the AM edition of Salty Takeaways comes from Turner Kirby. Not even looking at the stats, this match just felt so much better, and the team looked better. Proud of the guys for not losing their heads after the penalty and red card. Really liked how we tried to go out guns blazing.
Yeah, they went out and they fought, and it was very impressive to watch them just not give up. They didn't even try and hole up and try and weather a storm at the very end. They were out there, like you said. Jackson Conway's out there winning a bouncing ball in the last 30 seconds of the game, trying to get something going forward and trying to create an opportunity. It's awesome to see that, they still had the fight. And yeah, I think a lot of that is going to be, I think a lot of that is going to be a matter of, that's just what Gabriel Heinze is, and that's what he's going to bring as a coach. Is like, oh, we're down a man, we're still going to play our style. That's not going to change. So you got that, and I think you'll continue to see that, and you can ride this a bit into that game against New England, a New England team missing their goalkeeper who has been fantastic. Like Matt Turner is right up there with that conversation of best goalkeepers in MLS for me with Andre Blake. Yeah, they still got trampled in the first 45 minutes of that game against a Toronto team that had just given up 7 goals the game before. And I have a lot of questions. Let's see what New England looks like, because their pride is wounded. How did they do coming into Atlanta? How does Atlanta build off this?
And those are questions that we will be taking a peek at over the next 8 days. SDH PM, here's your programming reminder one more time. Once everything is settled with everybody back here in Atlanta at HQ, SDH PM will be up this afternoon, and we will talk about anything else on your mind. Thank you to everyone who has sent in your thoughts after a spirited, fiery, amazing effort by Atlanta United in a 2-2 draw in Nashville on Thursday night. Jarrett, send us home.
Mucha plata, y'all.